Well, next I want to get to an article written on Forward, and it was brought to my attention. I follow Ben Shapiro's work over at Daily Wire, and this is an article from Rabbi Tamara Kolton. She wrote, quote, "The first story in the Bible was the first case of MeToo." Yeah, I'm letting that sink in. Let Rabbi Kolton's words sink in there, that yes. So her entire premise, she's a psychologist in Michigan, is that the Bible presents the first assault on women done by man, not man, no. The perpetrator is God. Quote, "I want you to think about this. Here is a young, beautiful, intelligent, naked woman living in the status of grace. She's hungry, which is not biblically correct, by the way. So she does the most natural thing in the world and eats a piece of fruit. For following her instincts, trusting herself, and nourishing her body, she is punished. Is she punished for that, folks? Or is she punished for disobeying God?" She continues, "She will never again feel safe in her nakedness. She will never again love her body. She will never again know her body as a place of sacred sovereignty." I actually almost threw up a little bit. I actually just thought this is absolutely, literally nothing to do with sexual assault. Ben Shapiro's article actually says that. I actually read all of what Shapiro had to say, all of his commentary. He actually responded to that paragraph and said, quote, "The story of Adam and Eve literally has nothing to do with sexual assault. Eve's refusing to obey God's command to not eat from a certain tree at the behest of the snake, then telling Adam to do so while lying to God about it." So obviously that is the nature of the story, but it's just fascinating what this woman has gone through to twist the words here. I don't even know what to say. I really don't. So the story of Eve, which is very, very important to the Bible, even the most secular of people understand the story of Adam and Eve and being thrown out of the garden. But what they do miss, of course, is the obedience factor in all of this and the temptation factor of all this and how that nature is permeated into all of this. But that's not Rabbi Kolton's perspective at all. She says, quote, "Is God cruelly punishing Eve? Of course not. He promises to kill both Adam and Eve and doesn't kill either of them because he is merciful. He instead says that they will have to labor for which what would have come easily to them in the first place, and had they abided by his commandments. And then he comforts them by giving Adam and Eve clothing he makes for them in order to respect their own sense of modesty." Now remember, God never commanded them to make clothing. They made clothing for themselves after eating from the tree. Well, okay, she's getting this. I mean, this isn't the worst part of this in her article. But then it says, this God, quote, "this man-made figurehead of the patriarchy." Got that? Man-made figurehead. I don't know if this woman believes in God at all. I don't understand how she got her rabbi title, because she says, quote, "This God, this man-made figurehead of patriarchy, is not my God. He is a fiction, a man-made myth, yet one so powerful that it's poisoned and limited our notion of what God, capital letters, the truly divine, is and can be, especially for women. It's time for the only one true, loving, compassionate God, the God who wants nothing more than to see Eve to rise and resume her place as, quote, the mother of all living things, to make herself seen, known, and available to all of us. The God I believe in is all loving. The God is a divine source of life and healing, not shame and abandonment." And then she concludes with this. She says, "I know at this very moment in time, Eve is with us. She is awed and proud that we are finally finding our voices, one at a time, and then hundreds and thousands at a time. She who was lost to us long ago is actually here with us now, marching in the streets, testifying, raising her voice at last. Just listen. Eve, our Blessed Mother, is saying, 'Me too.'" I'm retching. Absolutely. If there's a deplorable, I think she has made it here. I don't understand how. What should we take away from her first? Her rabbi credentials or her psychologist degree? Because she's really got some serious problems. First off, where on earth would you come off with the premise that Eve is with us all? Some sort of eternal goddess that is somehow empowering women to this day. Look around, folks. I don't see Eve on any posters at the Women's March. I don't see any sense of empowerment that's tying back to the holy union that God originally created. What is this crazy woman talking about? Being sexually assaulted by God, being assaulted by God, being shamed. First off, again, words matter. Don't use any sexual assault. Don't use any assault. Obviously, her feeling naked or shame and all that comes from the disobeying of God and moving into a sinful nature. But this is what's out there, folks. This is absolutely how distorted this movement has gotten. So far away that we're not only moving away from what God defined as man and woman and marriage and relationships and purity and a divine bond with God and a holy communion with God. We're now going to make God the villain and Eve the heroine. And somehow she's eternally speaking to us in this, quote, man-made God, this patriarchy. Look, I understand masculine versus feminine pronouns, and I've studied the ancient languages, and you know, it's fine. I got it. God can be so much grander than our petty definition of genders and all that. Obviously, that goes without saying. But try to distort this into God as being some malicious, anti-woman, woman-hating, woman-abuser, woman-shaming is just blasphemous and wrong and evil and misguided. And shame on her. Shame on you, Rabbi Kolton. Shame on you for what damage you may have done with such a horrible depiction of our loving, merciful God. You're right. He didn't strike them dead. He didn't. But because of them, it created a world of havoc and chaos and filled with sin. And it was our merciful God that had a plan all along to still have a backup, still have a path to redemption, to still have a way of Jesus Christ saving all of us, to building a bridge back home to that merciful and loving God. And he receives all of us, including those women that are feeling shameful, including those women that are embarrassed, including those women that actually have been sexually assaulted, raped, abused, neglected, harassed, molested. All of that falls away with the loving arms of God. Jesus overcomes all of those things. We were so blessed to have on with us a couple weeks ago Beauty for Ashes, b4ashes.com, a group that deals with these women, a group that brings Jesus Christ into their lives. And you heard the testimony of Debbie Hannah. You heard the testimony of what she has seen with these women and what she's been able to accomplish in just a short amount of time. There are organizations like that all over the world. And it is not some vain, bogus discussion of patriarchy that brings healing. It's not some God worship glorification of Eve that's going to bring healing. It is only Jesus Christ. And shame on Rabbi Kolton for even penning such an absurd article. Part of me just thought it was clickbait, just a way of getting traffic and making a name for herself. Shapiro's arguments were very valid, and I do agree with him a lot when he deals with Old Testament topics. So it's definitely a great read. And you can find this out on theGlobalDispatch.com. We'll put a link in the bottom of the YouTube clip or online, and you can check that out for yourself. It is a incredible thing to sort of put in the record of what MeToo has done and how derailed this train has become. So, well, sadly, we're going to have to go to break, and we will be back with Ted Hayes. We'll talk about some very challenging topics with Ted. He's just a great, great guy, an incredible voice, and we're hoping that we can just continue to support him as well and move him in a direction that he's going. So stay with us.